Basic principles of photochemistry. Photochemistry is the interaction of light with matter. And IUPAC has defined photochemistry as the branch of chemistry concerned with the chemical effects of light. And the range of light which is effective for photochemical reactions is far UV to IR. The simplest photochemical process is shown over here, that say an electron is present in the sodium atom in the ground state, and when this is radiated with a photon of 589 nanometer wavelength, then this will get excited to the higher energy state, the excited state of the sodium atom. So from ground state with radiation of light of this wavelength, it will go into the excited state. And after some time, this will relax back to the ground state by emitting the photon with the same wavelength. So it has absorbed a wavelength of 589 nanometers, and on emission it will release the same photon with 589 nanometer wavelength. The importance of photochemistry, you can see that in daily life the process of photosynthesis is based on photochemistry. And further, photochemistry has many applications in different types of branches of chemistry. It has applications in quantum theory, analytical chemistry, then spectroscopy. Photochemistry is based. You know that UV spectroscopy and IR spectroscopy, they are very much theory of these two spectroscopies is based on photochemistry. Then photophysics also finds applications of photochemistry, photobiology, chemical kinetics, and more importantly, organic photochemistry has applications in organic synthesis to synthesize many types of organic compounds which are biologically active and have other applications in chemical industry or pharmaceutical industry. There are some special terms which are used in photochemistry. Some of the important terms which we will use in the photochemistry, they are like charge transfer transition. This charge transfer transition is an electron transition in which a large fraction of the electron charge is transferred either from one region of the molecule to the other region of the same molecule, or from one molecular entity to another molecular entity. And if the charge is transferred within the same molecule, then it is called as intramolecular charge transfer, whereas when it is transferred from one molecular entity to another molecular entity, then it is called as intermolecular charge transfer. Then spin multiplicity, or simply multiplicity, is the possible number of orientation of the spin angular momentum corresponding to given total spin quantum number, and it is given by this formula 2s plus 1. So that means if s is equal to 1, the state will be single multiplicity, because s is 0, this will become 0, that means the state will be of single multiplicity. If s is half, then the value will become 2, so state will be doublet state. Then is a term hopping, or this is also known as electronic energy migration. So the movement of electronic excitation energy from one molecular entity to another of the same species or from one part of the molecular entity to another part of the same molecular entity. So such type of energy migration is called as hopping or electronic energy migration. So this type of energy migration can either take place by radiative process or by radiationless process. Then are different rules which are called as Hund's rules, which will determine that what kind of multiplicity rule, what kind of angular momentum rule, or what kind of fine structure rule will be followed in photochemistry. So as far as multiplicity rule is concerned, that of the different multiplets resulting from different configuration of the electrons in degenerate orbitals of an atom, those with greatest multiplicity will have the lowest energy, which means multiplicity rule is that an atom with greatest multiplicity will have the lowest energy, and or an atom with lowest multiplicity will have the highest energy. So this rule is called as multiplicity rule. Then angular momentum rule is that among the multiplets having the same multiplicity, the lowest energy one is that with the largest total orbital angular momentum. So if multiplicity is same among the multiplets, then if orbital angular momentum is large, then energy will be low. If this is small, then energy will be high. Then is fine structure rule. Fine structure rule is that in configurations containing shells with less than half full of electrons, the term having lowest total angular momentum will have the lowest energy. Whereas in case of shells with more than half filled orbitals, the term having the largest value will have the lowest energy. So this is called as fine structure. Then is internal conversion. Internal conversion is a photophysical process, that is isoenergetic radiationless transition between two electronic states of the same multiplicity. So that means if transfer of energy takes place, say from S1 to S0, they have the same multiplicity, that is singlet state. S1 is singlet excited state first, and S0 is the singlet ground state. So when radiationless transition between these two states takes place, then this will be called as internal conversion, because they have the same multiplicity. Then is quenching. Quenching is deactivation of an excited molecular entity, and this can take place through two type of processes. Either it can take place intermolecularly, or it can take place intramolecularly. Intermolecularly, quenching can take place by an external environment influence, uh, means that we will have to add something from outside environment. That is, say we need to add a quencher to quench the excited molecular entity. Or intramolecular is when a substituent present within the system that through a non-radiative process can quench the reaction, that is intramolecular quenching. Then selection rule. Selection rule is whether a given transition is allowed or forbidden. So this can be decided on the basis of either symmetry or spin of the wave function of initial or the final states in the photochemical reaction. Then is laws of photochemistry. There are two laws first law of photochemistry and second law of photochemistry. The first law of photochemistry is called as Grothus-Draper law, and according to this law, the photochemical reaction is produced by the absorbed light, and transmitted light is not effective in any way for the photochemical transformation, which means that only absorbed light plays a role in a reaction to take place photochemically, and transmitted light has no effect on photochemical reaction. So this is the first law of photochemistry, or Grothus-Draper law. Then second law of photochemistry is Stark-Einstein law, which states that each molecule involved in a photochemical reaction absorbs only one quantum of radiation that causes the photochemical reaction. So that means we cannot use photons in fractions. It can be used, only one quantum of radiation can be used for a photochemical reaction to take place. Then is quantum yield. As per IUPAC, the quantum yield has been defined as the number of defined events which occur per photon absorbed by the system. And this quantum yield is also known as quantum efficiency, and it can be defined in other ways also, that quantum efficiency is number of molecules of the reactant consumed divided by number of photons absorbed, or it can be defined as number of molecules of the product formed divided by number of photons absorbed. So by both these ways we can define quantum efficiency. And the value of quantum efficiency for any photochemical reaction may be 0, minimum value can be 0, and maximum may range up to 10 to the power 6. So the value of quantum efficiency is very low or very high, depending upon how effective the photochemical reaction is. Then next is Jablonski diagrams, and these diagrams they are used to actually given the molecular electronic states, how they behave in these. For example, these horizontal lines S0, S1 or S2, they are the molecular electronic state. This is a singlet state, whereas this T1 and T2, they are triplet states. So S0 is the ground state of the singlet molecular entity. So this is singlet ground state. This is first excited singlet state. This is second excited singlet state. This is first excited triplet state. This is second excited triplet state. And within these states, say in the ground state, ground singlet state, we will have vibrational energy level, rotational energy level, and electronic energy levels. So within the states we are having these energy levels, where through vibration or rotation or electronic system crossing, they can electronic vibration, the energy can be transferred. Now in the ground state, when electron is present and it absorbs a photon, it gets excited to the higher energy state. Say this may go to the S1 or this may go to S2, depending upon the amount of energy absorbed through photon. And these blue arrows, they tells us that absorption of energy, or simply these are absorption curves. These arrows, lined arrows, blue lined arrow, they donate absorption. Then when this electron has reached the excited states, so either first excited state or second excited state, then after some time it has to relax back to its original position. And this relaxation can either take place through these red colored arrows of this type, and this process where the electron goes from S2 to S1 or S1 to S0. This process is called as internal conversion. And similarly, from this first excited state to the ground state, the energy transfer can also take place through these types of green arrows. The process is called as fluorescence. And from singlet state, if the electron is transferred to the triplet state, then the process is called as intersystem crossing. So this is intersystem crossing. So when say the first singlet excited state is higher in energy than first triplet state, then through intersystem crossing the electron will jump from here to here and energy will be released. And then from here, from T1, the electron can relax back to S0, and through a process which is called as phosphorescence. So Jablonski diagrams tells us that how absorption or emission takes place in the either radiative transitions or through radiationless transitions. Uh, this is the relaxation mechanism of excited state molecules, which I have already told you that once a molecule has absorbed light in the form of electromagnetic radiation, it goes to higher energy level, that is excited state, uh, from the ground state, and this is the transformation, that S0 is ground state, S1 is first excited state. Then from S1 or S2 it can relax back to again S0, and there are number of routes by which it can return to the ground state. And these two important processes of fluorescence and phosphorescence, they are when the electron relaxes from excited state to the ground state. And if the photon emission occurs between state of same spin state, then the process is termed as fluorescence. And if it takes place from the different spin state, then it is called as phosphorescence. You have seen that the same spin state means this is taking place between the singlet state, say as from S1 to S0. So these are the same spin states. That is why this process would be called as fluorescence. And when say it comes from different spin states, that is a triplet state to singlet state, then the process will be called as phosphorescence. Next is Franck-Condon principle. Franck-Condon principle basically is that it states that as electron moves much more rapidly as compared to the nuclei, so it is approximated that in an electronic transition nuclei do not change their position. So nuclear, it is assumed that it will remain in position when electronic transition will take place. The only movement will be of electrons, not of the nuclei, because nuclei is much bigger and it is larger in size as compared to electron, and its nucleus is heavier also as compared to electron, and its position will not change much. Then the fluorescence, which I have already told you, that relaxation of the excited electrons to the ground state within the same spin multiplicity takes place from near of the upper excited state, that is say first excited state, and it strikes the lower potential cover. But it does not hit in its deepest point on the ground state. It will just reach the upper side of the ground state uh, of the molecule. So the some excitation energy that will be converted into vibration energy. Therefore the absorption and emission cycle contains two periods of energy dissipation. So that is why the fluorescence arrow is always shorter than the absorption arrow. In other words, the wavelength of the fluorescence band will be longer as compared to wavelength of the absorption band. And because of this difference in the wavelength of the absorption and fluorescence band, there will be a shift, and this shift is known as Stokes shift. This displacement of fluorescence band towards longer wavelength compared to the absorption band is called as Stokes shift. And Stokes shift is thus displacement of fluorescence band compared to the absorption band of the molecule. Then is photochemical energy. We know that relationship of energy E is equal to h nu, where h is Planck's constant and nu is frequency of the molecule. And we know that frequency is c upon lambda, where lambda is wavelength and c is velocity of light. And in this case, if we see that h is constant, velocity of light is constant, that means energy is inversely proportional to wavelength of the, or it is directly proportional to frequency. And generally we term the expressions in terms of wavelength. So the energy of photons is dependent on wavelength of light. That is, you have seen that this is inversely proportional to the wavelength. So that means when it is inversely proportional, longer wavelength of light will have low energy, shorter wavelength will have high energy, because they are inversely proportional to each other. And photochemistry involves radiation between 2000 nanometers to less than 100 nanometers. And as far as organic photochemistry is concerned, the most important regions, they are these ones: visible, ultraviolet, and ultraviolet visible. The range of visible region is from 700 to 400 nanometers, whereas ultraviolet is 400 to 200 nanometers, and ultraviolet visible is 200 to 100 nanometers. Then energy range for photochemical dissociation is from 170 to 1200 kilojoules per mole. So this much of energy is required for causing the photochemical reactions. Some reactions, they may require a small amount of energy, that is 170 kilojoules per mole, whereas other organic molecules, they may require energy of the order of 1200 kilojoules per mole for a photochemical reaction to take place, or photochemical dissociation to take place. Then is electromagnetic spectrum. This spectrum gives you an idea about the relationship between energy, frequency, and wavelength of different regions. Say gamma rays region, X-ray regions. Then for photochemistry point of view, these are the regions which are important: UV, visible, and infrared. So the frequency, energy, and wavelength in these regions, they will determine whether a photochemical reaction will take place or it will not take place. So this is the ionization energy for a photochemical reaction to take place. So depending upon the type of substrate, the photons will be absorbed either in visible region or ultraviolet regions. Then the photochemical reactions, they will take place in these regions. Next is chemistry of photochemical excitation. Uh, as I have told you that in photochemistry, light is absorbed in the wavelength range of 200 to 800 nanometers for most of the organic chemical reactions. So such a spectrum in this range measures the amount of incident light by the molecule as a function of wavelength. So depending upon the amount of incident light and wavelength absorbed by that molecule, we will have a spectrum of that kind. And this can be chemistry of photochemical excitation is governed by these two laws, Lambert's law and Beer's law. The Lambert's law states that when a monochromatic beam of light is allowed to pass through a transparent medium, the rate of decrease in intensity with the thickness of the medium is directly proportional to the intensity of the incident light. So, for example, if IT is the intensity of the transmitted light, I0 is the intensity of incident light, then Lambert's law mathematically can be written like this, where K is a constant and T is the path length. So this value IT upon I0 is called as transmittance of the molecule. So transmittance, that means, is equal to this one, e raised power minus kT, where K is constant and T is path length. Similarly, Beer's law, it states that when a monochromatic light is passed through a solution, the rate of decrease in intensity with the thickness of the solution is directly proportional to the intensity of the incident light as well as concentration of the solution. So here again, the mathematical expression for Beer's law is this one, where I0, as I have already told you, intensity of incident light, IT is intensity of transmitted light, K dash is constant, C is concentration, which is a particular concentration at which we can determine the transmitted light, and it will vary with the, if we change the concentration and path length, then IT will vary. Then when both these Beers and Lambert law, they are combined, then this type of mathematical statement can be reduced, right? And here eta is molar absorption coefficient or molar absorptivity, which is a constant. Concentration is a fixed quantity, moles per liter, we can change that. And then path length in centimeter. So this law is called as Lambert-Beer law or Beer-Lambert's law, mathematical expression for that. And this value I0, this is having negative sign. To make it positive, we will make it I0 upon IT. I0 upon IT, this is called as absorbance, So absorbance is equal to this, log of absorbance is equal to this one. If we take antilog, then e raised power this one will be your absorbance. So this is absorbance, and transmittance is opposite to absorbance. So 1 upon T is equal to A. So that is why either we can calculate the absorbance or we can calculate the transmittance of the photochemical reaction or photochemical excitation. Then is electronic transitions. Absorption of UV or visible radiation corresponds to excitation of the outer electron, and from by absorption of UV light, the electron will move from, say, ground state to the excited state. And there are three types of electronic transitions which are generally there. First, they are transitions involving pi, sigma, and n electrons. Then is transitions involving charge transfer electrons. And third category is transitions involving d and f electrons. Now, as far as organic chemistry is concerned, these are the transitions which take place in organic photochemistry. Transitions involving pi, sigma, and n electrons. So these transitions, they will determine whether a photochemical transition or photochemical reaction can take place or not. So as I have told you, when an atom or molecule absorbs energy, electrons, they are promoted from the ground state to the excited state. And in a molecule, the atoms, they can rotate and vibrate with respect to each other. And these vibrations and rotations, they will also have a discrete energy levels. And you can see over here, these are the rotational electronic levels. And within that, we will have the vibrational electronic levels. So we will have rotational or vibrational electronic levels, which can be having discrete energy because they are present in the discrete energy levels. And then in organic photochemistry, we know that this will mainly take place in UV region or visible region of the molecule. And this is because certain functional group, they will absorb radiation in these regions, and those functional group which absorb radiation in these regions, they are called as chromophores. And they contain valence electrons which where excitation energy required is very low, and they can be transformed from ground state to the higher excited state. The electronic transition in organic chemistry is involved in promotion of an electron from one of the three ground state, that is either pi ground state, sigma ground state, or non-bonding ground state, to one of the antibonding molecular orbital, that is either pi antibonding or sigma antibonding molecular orbital. So these types of electronic transitions, they are possible in organic molecules. And the number of transitions, these are the four electronic transitions which are shown by molecular organic molecules. Uh, the first one is non-bonding to pi antibonding. So this is non-bonding orbital energy level. So when the electron is excited from non-bonding to pi antibonding, so these are the transitions: non-bonding to pi antibonding, n pi star transitions. Then second is when the electron is excited from non-bonding to sigma antibonding. then n sigma star transitions they will take place. If the electron is excited from pi bonding orbital to pi anti-bonding orbital, then the type of transitions they are called as pi star transitions. If the electron is excited from sigma bonding orbital to sigma anti-bonding orbital, then such a type of transitions they are sigma star transitions. And in photochemical reactions in organic chemistry, these two transitions are the important transitions: pi star transitions and n pi star transitions. So as I have told you that in organic chemistry, only pi star transitions and n pi star transitions, they are mostly because of the chromophore they absorb in this region, and because of that the transitions they take place, and these transitions need an unsaturated group in the molecule to provide pi electrons. Now, for example, if chromophore is having this carbon-carbon double bond, so that means alkenes, functional group is alkenes. Example, say in ethane, this will be excited from pi bonding to pi anti-bonding with this wavelength at 171 nanometer. So it will absorb this wavelength UV radiation, and the molecule will get excited from ground state to the excited state. For carbon-carbon triple bond, for example, say in case of 1-hexene, the value will be 180 and transition will be pi star transition. So these are unsaturated molecules. Carbonyl compounds, say for example ethanyl, and in carbonyl there are pi bonds also and non-bonding orbitals also. Because of the presence of lone pair of electrons on oxygen, there are non-bonding electrons also. So therefore there will be n to pi star transitions, non-bonding to pi antibonding, or pi to pi antibonding. Pi is this carbon oxygen double bond, pi bond. This will absorb at 180, whereas non-bonding electrons they will absorb at 290. So likewise, all these types of organic compounds they will absorb at this wavelength to get excited from ground state to the excited state of the molecule. Then what kind of photochemical reaction processes take place once the molecule has been excited from ground state to excited state? So we know that a ground state molecule, by absorption of a photon of light, will get into excited state. An excited molecular entity will be formed. Now this excited molecular entity is going to be transformed into photochemical product, and this process of conversion of excited state into products can take place by different means, either by dissociation, or by direct reaction, or by isomerizations, or by energy transfer, or by luminescence, or by quenching, or by photoionization. So all these type of processes can lead to the formation of photochemical products, and these processes they work differently. For example, dissociation, here if this is the excited state, after the excitation this excited molecular entity can dissociate into free radicals, X free radical and Y free radical. So excited state species may fragment to a pair of radicals, or in case of say nitrogen dioxide, this is nitrogen dioxide, it will give us nitric oxide and oxygen as the product. Similarly, halogen, chlorine will get dissociated into these two free radicals, Cl free radicals. So one example of dissociation reaction in case of organic chemistry is formation of propanone and ethene from 2-pentanone. So when 2-pentanone absorbs a photon of light, it gets excited, and this excited 2-pentanone through release of energy will dissociate from, say, this place. This carbon carbon bond will break from here, and one of the hydrogen will break, carbon hydrogen bond will break, and this H radical will get associated at this place, and then free radical generated will create a carbon carbon double bond at this place, and you will get ethene and propanone as the product. And this type of reaction is called as dissociation reaction in photochemical reaction process. Then is direct reaction. Direct reaction is that photo-excited entity will undergo reaction with another substrate, and that will form a photochemical product. And such a photochemical process is called as direct reaction. And most important and most common example of such type of direct reaction is formation of oxytanes from alkenes and carbonyl compounds, and this reaction is called as Paterno-Bucci reaction. So when carbonyl compounds, they are excited with UV light, they will these excited carbonyl compounds, they will interact with the alkenes having electron withdrawing groups preferably. Then these types of heterocyclic four-membered ring compounds, they are formed, which are called as oxytanes, and this process of formation of oxytanes from alkenes and carbonyl compounds is called as Paterno-Bucci reaction. So Paterno-Bucci reaction is an example of direct reaction. Then is isomerization. Isomerization is when say trans reactant is converted into a cis product, or a cis reactant is converted into a trans product. So depending upon the type of substrate used, such type of isomerization is called as photochemical isomerization. So here the excited species will get isomerized to give you photochemical product. So for example, when trans stilbene this is reacted with UV light, then this will excite this trans stilbene, and because of the excited trans stilbene, there will a free rotation will be allowed around the alkene double bond, and because of this free rotation, the trans configuration will change into cis configuration. So geometrical isomerization will take place. Then is photochemical energy transfer reaction. So here what happens is that an excited state species will transfer energy to another ground state species, and this uh, energy transfer can either take place intermolecularly or intramolecularly. So this can take place within the same molecule or between the two molecules. For example, if we are having this XY excited state, this molecule, this will interact with another molecule in the ground state, and the energy will be transferred from the excited molecule to the ground state molecule. This will become ground state, and the other molecule will become excited, and such a photochemical reaction process is called as energy transfer reaction. So example of intermolecular energy transfer reaction is that excited rose bengal dye can interact with triplet oxygen, and this will transfer its energy to the oxygen, and this will become a triplet state to the singlet state, which is an excited state, whereas triplet state is the ground state of the oxygen, whereas this excited rose bengal dye will become the ground state rose bengal dye. So such a reaction is called as energy transfer reaction, and because this is taking place between two different molecular entities, so this is an example of intermolecular energy transfer. Similarly, intramolecular energy transfer is when it is taking place within the same molecule. So the singlet naphthalene excited molecule with the absorption of UV radiation will change into a triplet naphthalene molecule, which is having a different energy state by absorbing the energy. So transfer of energy will transform a singlet naphthalene into a triplet naphthalene. Then is photochemical reaction processes, where next category is quenching. Quenching is that when excited molecular species interacts with some quencher, and energy is transferred to that quencher, and quencher is mostly solvent, and here the energy is converted into vibrational energy, that is generally in the form of heat. That energy is transferred from excited molecule to the solvent. So such a process is called as quenching. Then photoionization. Photoionization is when the excited molecule ionizes to give us the negatively charged species and positively charged radical. The excited molecule will transform into radical cation, and an electron is released. So example is this nitric oxide. When a light with this wavelength is radiated, then it will get excited and it will change into nitronium ion, and an electron will be released, and this nitronium ion can react with, this is an reactive intermediate, this can interact with many functional groups to give us different types of products. Then selection rules for electronic transitions. As I have already told you that selection rules, they can be based on spin of the molecule or based on symmetry of the molecule. So if the transition between electronic states of same spin multiplicity are there, then those types of transitions, they are allowed transition. That is, if transition is from singlet state to singlet state or triplet state to triplet state, so then such type of process will be allowed process. So such type of transition will be allowed transition. But if transition is between electronic state of different spin multiplicity, then that is not allowed. That is a forbidden state. That is, you cannot have a transition from singlet to triplet or triplet to singlet. These types of transitions, they are not allowed or they are forbidden. Similarly, symmetry based selection rules is that transition can take place between orbitals of same symmetry. These are allowed transition. That is, if the excitation is from pi to pi antibonding, they have the same state, then this is an allowed transition. Whereas transition between orbitals of different symmetry, they are forbidden. And to pi star transition, they are forbidden transitions. Then based on the type of transition, pi pi star transition or n pi star transition. That is, pi pi star is in S1 state and this is in T1 state. These are the different types of reactions which take place by these transitions. Reactions involving carbocations, reactions involving carbanions, then concerted pericyclic reactions, electron transfer reactions, and cis-trans isomerization reactions, which we have already discussed that how these takes place, and all these they take place by pi pi star transition. So all carbocation, carbanion, pericyclic, electron transfer and cis-trans isomerization reactions, they are initiated by pi pi star electronic transitions. Whereas the reactions which are initiated by n pi star transitions, they are homolytic fragmentation, hydrogen atom abstraction, addition to unsaturated bond, and then rearrangement of stable carbon centered radicals. All these reactions they are initiated by n pi star state. Then photosensitized reactions. So here what happens is that reactants in some photochemical reactions they do not absorb light, and when they do not absorb light, that means the photochemical products they cannot be formed in such reaction, right? However, if we can add another substance which can absorb the UV radiations, and then these reactants which were earlier not reactive, they in the presence of that substance can be converted into products. So such type of reactions they are called as photosensitized reactions. So the reactions uh, where otherwise reactants they cannot absorb UV light or photochemical light, but in the presence of some substance they can undergo photochemical reaction. Such reactions they are called as photosensitization reactions. Now the substance which when added to a reaction mixture to help in initiating a photochemical reaction without undergoing any chemical change is called as photosensitizer. The substance which we have added from outside, that is called as photosensitizer, and this photosensitizer will be responsible for the photochemical reaction to take place. And these types of reaction where the reaction takes place only with the addition of some photosensitizer, they are called as photosensitization reaction, and the process is called as photosensitization. And most commonly used photosensitizer, inorganic photosensitizers, they are mercury, cadmium or sulfur dioxide, whereas in organic chemistry one of the most common photosensitizer used is benzophenone. So for example, if some reaction is not taking place and we add benzophenone, then that reactant gives us the photochemical product, then we will call that reaction as a photosensitized reaction, and benzophenone will be called as photosensitizer. Then mechanism of photosensitization is that here there is a general donor receptor system. Donor will be our sensitizer and acceptor will be the reactant which otherwise is not absorbing the radiation. So first donor will absorb the incident light and it will become excited. So this is ground state of the donor. When it will absorb light, it will get excited to the first excited state. So singlet ground state, excitation will reach the singlet excited state, and through intersystem crossing, this will change into the triplet first excited state of the donor. Then what will happen? The triplet state of the donor is higher in energy than the triplet state of the acceptor. Acceptor is our reactor. So on absorption of photon, donor changes to singlet, then into triplet through ISC, that is intersystem crossing. Then this triplet state then collides with the acceptor, producing triplet excited state acceptor. So this will interact, this triplet excited state will interact with the triplet excited state of the acceptor, and the energy will be transferred to the reactant molecules so that it can get excited from ground state of the acceptor molecule to the first excited state, that is the triplet excited state of the molecule. The triplet excited state of the sensitizer must be higher in energy than the triplet excited state of the reactant. So the energy available is sufficient to raise the reactant molecule to its triplet excited state. So because here the energy of the donor in the T1 will be higher as compared to the energy of the donor in the T1 state, energy of the acceptor in the T1 state, and because of this energy difference between the two, this energy will be transferred to the reactant molecule so that it can raise to the higher energy level from the ground state, and the photochemical reaction can take place. These are two examples of photosensitization. First example is that conversion of cis butene into trans butene, and photosensitizer used is sulfur dioxide vapors. So what is done is, first UV light is passed through sulfur dioxide, this becomes excited, and this excited sulfur dioxide vapors, they interact with the reactant, that is our cis 2-butene molecule, and this will absorb energy from sulfur dioxide, this will become excited, and this will come back to its ground state, and this excited cis butene molecule will be isomerized because of free rotation into trans butene 2 molecule, and then this excited will change into the ground state, and we will get trans butene as the product. So basically cis butene will be transformed into trans butene, but if we do not add sulfur dioxide in UV light, then this reaction cannot take place. So that is why this is an example of photosensitization reaction, and sulfur dioxide is a photosensitizer which is used for this reaction to take place. Similarly, dimerization of cyclohexane can take place in presence of mercury as photosensitizer. Again the process is same, mercury will absorb the photon, it will get excited, then this excited mercury will interact with the reactant molecule, and the free radicals of this type, they will be formed, then one free radical of this type will interact with another free radical of this type, and the dimerization of cyclohexane will take place, and excited mercury will get converted back into the ground state mercury, and the reaction, both the reaction, they take place at 254 nanometers, and both these, they are examples of photosensitization process, and the photosensitizer used here is mercury, and here it is sulfur dioxide. So these are the references which have been used for preparing this lecture. Book on chemistry for engineers published by Narosa has been used, that is written by myself, Harish Kumar and Anupama Parmar. Then some NPTEL lectures and videos have been used, and some internet sources they have been used for compiling this lecture. Thank you very much.